Welcome to episode 55 of On My Studio Table. As you can see, I'm not actually in my studio today. I'm in my kitchen and you'll see a little bit of my jug collection behind me. I do love jugs and I've had to stop buying them. I even offloaded some of them when we moved, which was quite amazing. These jugs I especially love, so they're in the kitchen, and then I have a few more in another cupboard that I get out from time to time. I do love china, generally speaking, I must say. I'm going to share a few things with you today. One of them is that I decided to do some eco-printing. I collected some leaves a few days ago, and then I didn't get the chance to actually use them. So they have dried out a bit, and as you'll see, I have soaked them so that they will be nice and hydrated for when I want to eco-print with them. I'm also currently soaking the items that I want to eco-print. They include a beautiful knitted jumper, some hand-knitted samples, and also maybe, if I have enough leaves that I've collected, a woolen jacket and a linen top, but we'll see how we go. I won't have them finished and ready for this video, but I will share a little bit about them on my Facebook and Instagram pages. So if you want to visit them during the week, the handle is Gone Rustic, so I'm easy to find. I will share the finished items on my next video, so that will be next Saturday. I have also done a lot of work to my triptych, and if you've been watching Facebook or Instagram, you'll see some of what I've done, but there will be a full explanation and reveal today. It is big. It's over 1 metre wide and it's nearly 2 metres high. So that's another reason I'm in the kitchen, because the table is a big one. It doesn't quite fit widthways, but it fits better than anywhere else in the house, except on the floor. So I'll also be sharing a little bit about my comfort coverlet, and I hope you enjoy it, and thank you so much for joining me. I'm now at the point where my coverlet of comfort, which I'm doing as part of a group exercise with Catherine Chambers of K3N Cloth Tales, where I can join my Tasmanian birds onto the main part. And I'm thinking about what kind of fabric to use in between the bird blocks, because there is a bit of a gap in between each one, so that I can join it so that it fits onto this section. So I've been playing around with a few different ideas. This is one option. This is the background fabric that I used for the blocks. But I think this will be a bit too quiet compared to the rest of it. So I don't think I'll be using that one. This is another one, but I don't think I've got enough of that. That isn't too bad because it reflects what I've used here, which is a cotton interlock that I've reinforced with some fusible interfacing. But as I said, I don't think I've got enough unless I include this bit, which is a patched piece. And I could do that. I could actually embroider on top of that or something, or couch something. So that is a possibility. Then I have this eco-printed fabric, which I did. It has really interesting leaf prints on it in a more muted tone. And I mentioned last time that I thought I might use some of the fabric I got from the Spotted Quoll, which is this one. And it actually represents granite boulders and water. And the granite has an orange lichen on it, and that's very, very typical of Tasmanian coastlines and river edges. So that one has a lot of the colours that I've used in the rest of it. So this is definitely a possibility. And I did mention last time, I'll just try and fold it so that it's about the right width. I think that's the colours that I'd probably use, that section of it. And I do really like that. Now, when I used the samples in the rest of it, which appear in different parts of the coverlet, I tea dyed them to knock them back a bit. So I think once I've cut them, I will tea dye them if I use this option. The other option that I was thinking about was this beautiful leaf printed fabric. And I cut out leaves from this to decorate the bird blocks. But I think that is probably just a bit too dark. So I still have quite a big piece. This could end up being used as part of the backing or maybe in another part of the coverlet, because we still have the rest of the year to go on this. So I think this is going to be the one that I choose. I've laid out my piece of fabric with the rocks and granite and water on it onto my cutting mat, and I've made sure that the folding edge is right up against one of the lines on my mat, and I've made sure that the top is also level. And it's a good idea to fold your fabric selvage to selvage if you're going to cut through several layers to make sure that it's going to be straight on the grain. My rotary cutter has a protection on it, so I release that and that leaves a blade which is ready to cut. This is very sharp, so it's really important to cover it up when you're not using it. And I'm just going to trim it even because it's not quite even on the edge here. And excuse my arm, I'll have to go in front of the camera as I cut it. And I can feel that that's not quite cutting through, so I'll just do it again. I am cutting through 4 layers. And then without moving my ruler, I just check that I've cut it, and at the end I haven't quite. And I've decided to make the sashings 2.5 inches. They need to be probably about 1.5 to 2 inches to make the blocks fit the coverlet. So that gives me some seam allowance on both sides. I also might need 4 of them because I might not only put them in between the blocks, but also top and bottom. It's important to hold the ruler down really firmly so it doesn't slip, otherwise you'll get a crooked line. So I'm holding it very firmly with all my weight on it, and the same with the cutter. Just check that I've cut right through it, and I have. So I'll put the cover back on my blade, move this away, and there should be enough, because I had 4 layers, to do the 4 strips that I need to do. And it's just the area that I wanted with the water and the rocks and the lichen. That's how the strip should look in between these 2 blocks and also the other one when I add it. And as I mentioned, I may put them on the top and the bottom as well. So now I'm going to go and tea dye it, and then I'll stitch it together. And next week I'll show you how it all looks. As you know, I love collecting anything that's vintage that I can reuse. Doesn't always have to be vintage, of course. It can be just something that someone's cast off, even if it's fairly modern. But if it's damaged, even better, because I can incorporate visible mending. So when these arrived the other day from a friend who was decluttering, I was very, very happy. Amongst the items that she gave me were this beautiful set of table napkins with 3D applique. I'm presuming most of it's done by machine, and when I look at the back, I think it is, but it is so well done. And these rosebuds are absolutely beautiful. I don't know that these are pure cotton or linen. I think there is some poly content in them. I can kind of feel it. So what I might do is actually cut these out, and there's quite a few of them. So I'll cut out the applique, and I may use it as a feature on another piece of work. There's also a table runner in here, I think. So as you can see, lots of napkins. Then there's a whole set of these napkins, which I think would be linen because they're the older kind, I think maybe from the 1930s, looking at the style of the applique. There's a lot of them, and I'll just move this one. There's also a tablecloth, and you can see the small flowers which are featured on the table napkins, but then there are other decorative designs on the rest of it. Also some open work lace. Being cotton, I could probably eco-print this or even tea dye it. That might be another option just to make them look older, even though they are old. They must be, 80 or 90 years old, these ones with the blue applique. So, very lovely thing to receive. Some of them look as though they have been used, some of them look like they've never been used. And the last thing that I wanted to share with you is this beautiful tablecloth. This is cross-stitched, but it also has lace inserts, as you can see here, and I can certainly use those. And it's amazing, people don't use these in their homes so much anymore unless you have a Victoriana theme or something like that, or live in a cottagey home. Our home is modern, and even though we have antiques and recycled furniture in our house, I'm not using these lacy things so much anymore. I have a drawer with some that I'm keeping that I will use from time to time, but there is a limit to how much you can actually use. And it's really good to actually give these a new purpose, and they'll last that bit longer without being discarded. So just a lovely thing to happen this week. I'm so pleased with these, and I'll add them to my existing collection, which is getting quite big, of beautiful vintage linens. Here is the triptych that I've been working on this week, and I've been working on it pretty much every day. On Facebook, I have shared a little bit about this, and also on Instagram, but I'm doing the full reveal today, and I hope you enjoy it. I've enjoyed so much working on this. After a hiatus of several months, I feel like I've nailed it. First of all, I did not expect to put this eagle on here. That was not the intention when I was working on this for all of this year mostly. But the other day, I suddenly thought I need something for this area here because there wasn't much happening in this area. And I thought, what about an eagle? Because we have eagles that fly over our land. We haven't seen them for quite a while. And mostly they're active in the summer when there are the warm thermals over the pasture lands. But I just thought maybe I could include that because I have been working a lot with birds lately. I've been using Tasmanian birds on my comfort coverlet, as you know. And then I thought, well, maybe I can also include one of the most amazing and regal looking birds that we have onto this triptych. And everything seemed to come together. Having cut out the holes, which are just off shot here, and remade them and patched them and re-embroidered them, I felt like I was on the right track. And then when I decided to include the eagle, that really clinched it. As I said, the Tasmanian wedge-tailed eagle is endangered. So it's always a privilege and an honour to see them in real life. And it's just so wonderful that we have some that must be nesting nearby. Occasionally we see a single eagle, sometimes a pair, and sometimes three. And if there are three, it means that they've had a baby and the baby is maturing, which is always good news for an endangered species. I'm not sure if I pronounced this correctly, but the proper name for the wedge-tailed eagle, the Tasmanian wedge-tailed eagle, is Aquila audax fleaei, and it's a subspecies of the Australian eagle. So the Tasmanian wedge-tailed eagle is unique, and its territory is limited, and especially since farming and urbanisation. And it's so important to try and preserve these species by preserving the habitat. And as you know, we have designated our property as land for wildlife. After I did the eagle and the wording, I had a look at everything. I was happy with the patches that I did. I'll just move that down so you can see it. I was happy with these patches here, just at the top here. I added the feather stitch, which I had already done on the other ones because there are 2 others. And then I was able to finish the topographical lines that I had in this section, plus another piece which I hadn't finished. Now I had run out of this thread, and I tried a variegated orange that I had, but this has a little bit of pink in it and it just wasn't right. So what I did was I took some of the variegated orange, which I had barely enough left of, and added a pink wool thread that I had, which I've shared before. So that I had, I think, 4 strands because the pearl cotton's quite thick. And then it looked very close to this. And if you're just looking at the whole piece, you don't even notice that that's different. So each of these is based on an onion skin print. So they are irregular prints. And when I stitched around them and did the seed stitch on them, they just look like dry lakes or something like that. And the whole thing looks like dry creek beds and a whole landscape from a high vantage point. So if I just show you the eagle again, that's why I've decided to call this piece Airy or Irie, depends how you pronounce it. The UK spelling is E-Y-R-I-E. The American spelling is A-E-R-I-E. I've chosen to spell it the UK way because the eagle looks like he's just sitting there observing his whole territory. It just seemed like a really appropriate name. And I did not know what to call it until the eagle made himself known as needing to be on this artwork. So it's amazing how things evolve while you're working and ideas come that you would never have thought of. Now you'll see here, I'll just move it down a little bit, that I've put a found object on one of the panels because I'm thinking about man's influence on the environment, which I explained when I shared about these holes that I cut and filled in the last video. I felt that this represented the mechanisation that can often harm our environment, particularly in the forestry and mining businesses. And these businesses have in the past been mainstays of the Tasmanian economy. This is actually from a coffee plunger. So the plunger broke, like the pot section broke, and I saved the bits that you push down on top of the coffee grounds when you make a pot of coffee. And that was perfect to look like a wheel. I wasn't sure if I wanted to put the actual objects on or whether I wanted to use them as a pattern. I did end up tracing them in case, but I decided to use the actual item. And I can always use the traced ones for patterns for other things. On this panel, I also have a space which I thought might suit having something added. So this is another bit of coffee plunger. I don't think it's the same one. It could be. I've had them for years. And it had a bit protruding here where the handle and post screwed in. So I got my husband to cut that off so that it will sit flat. And I'll stitch that down in this part here. And I think then it will be finished apart from doing the rod pockets at the top. I have a really nice black metal rod I can display this on. We accidentally ordered an extra one for the curtains in our house. And it's extendable, so it can fit any size, which will be absolutely perfect. With this one, I've used black thread to stitch it down. It's just a black pearl cotton. And I'm going to stitch the other one down in the same way. So I just caught it around the middle on the spokes, then halfway down the spokes, then on each side and halfway between on the outside. It was quite difficult to stitch because this doesn't bend. And I couldn't pin it or anything, so I had to be really careful to make sure that it stayed flat. And because it was curved, I couldn't actually stick it down with anything because it's curved towards the outside. This one is flat, and so I think I might put some double-sided tape on the back just to hold it while I stitch it, and then it won't move. So this is where I'm at with the triptych. I have taken some photos of it all spread out on the table without these added and without the feather stitch, just to give you an idea of the whole look of it. The next time I share it, this will be attached, the rod pockets will be on, and it will be hanging on its rod. So I'll see if I can take some photos of that to share with you next time.